Like many content creators, I picked up Man-Thing not thinking that it would actually be a compelling card to build a deck around. When I started up stream, I fully expected to lose a bunch of ranks testing out Man-Thing and chalk that up to just the cost of doing business. Instead, I had a 55% win rate and a very positive cube rate as I climbed upwards into high infinite with a deck entirely reliant on Man-Thing. This is the list that I used, and the basic premise of the list is that you're using Man-Thing to enable some cheap abominations off of a high evolutionary. You play the majority of the rest of the high evolutionary core, but like most decks, we are finally eschewing wave. We are no longer in the business of being a wave evo deck, and I do like that about this list. It's just a high evolutionary stats deck. It's best compared to something like Elsa Move, where you're just like, I'm just gonna do some stats here, and there's no real gimmicks in it. It's just, here's a bunch of numbers and a bunch of negative numbers for you, and you really get a lot out of just taking a solid, I'm playing good cards strategy. One card that does deserve a huge shout out here is Mobius, Mobius, who is sort of required in any kind of mid-rangey deck, so you don't get run over by Loki. You basically have to play the card if you don't want to get run over by Loki. Otherwise, when Loki plays the card Loki, they are just doing the thing that you are doing better than you. So you do have to be utterly terrified of that if you're not a Mobius gamer. Now, we also want to do a big shout out to Rogue. Rogue is outstanding here. A really good card. A really crucial one because so many people are looking to counter Man-Thing with Luke Cage, and you get to take their Luke Cage. Stealing a Luke Cage is a million times better than playing your own Luke Cage because it means they can't have a Luke Cage. I think Rogue is absolutely core in decks like this. Even back in the day when I was playing things like this, I would be running Rogue for opposing Luke Cages, and I do think she is a very important part of this deck, and a big reason why it was able to be a positive cube earner in High Infinite was because of Rogue. Sunspot is probably the best card for you to see on turn 1. I am very often playing him on turn 1 and not very focused on the Hulk, especially if I can play Sunspot into a Misty Knight. That is always a crucial thing to do when you are trying to curve out in a deck like this. Do keep in mind that adding power to your Sunspot is not just adding it once per turn. You can actually get some real jukes in by putting a lot of power in the Sunspot lane that other people might not be playing around. Sunspot, for example, is a very hard lane for opponents to Alliath. Misty Knight is, of course, the other one-cost card that we are running in this list, and I will say I really do think I want to get Nebula in here, but I can't figure out exactly what to get her in here for. So for now, Misty Knight and Sunspot are the cards that I am going for on the bottom end of the curve. Luke Cage protects us from being affected by our own Man-Thing, and also is just a generally very strong card to be using right now to prevent your stuff from getting Shadow Kinged. People like Shadow Kinging your Sunspot, so Luke Cage is very good for that. Do keep in mind, if your opponent is playing Rogue, it can be best to not play out Luke Cage, and that is actually one of the major tensions that I've noticed in the deck, which is your deck is sort of built to play this giant Hulk on the final turn of the game, but in so doing, you expose your Luke Cage, you expose things to counterplay that you would really rather not. So I almost wonder if there's another card that I'm just missing here that allows me to play multiple cards on the final turn of the game, target multiple lanes, and one of them being Luke Cage. I really do wonder about that, but I do think Luke Cage is a card that you pretty much have to run in most decks at this point, and because of that, you know, we not only run our own Luke Cage, we also run a Rogue for opposing Luke Cages. Scorpion is the negative power afflictor I opted for over Hazmat. I felt that Hazmat placed too much on the back of our own Luke Cage, and so Scorpion just, it's fine basically no matter what. There are a lot of decks that are passing at least one of the first 2 turns, so it's usually like a 2/6 or so, and if they have a Luke Cage that they're counting on, we can try to rogue it, right? Hazmat's a little different because Hazmat requires specific board setups to actually be good. She requires your own Luke Cage to make it not a negative impact to you a lot of the time. And that is just a little bit too finicky for what I was trying to do. So we ended up with Scorpion as the 2-drop negative power afflictor of choice. Mobius is too damn good not to run here. This is a card that absolutely carries your Loki matchups. It is very hard to beat that deck without it. It's also just really good into a bunch of locations. Dream Dimension, the Raft. It's just great right now. There's really no excuse not to run it other than not having it. If you have it, it should probably be in almost every deck you play. For the record, I know I'm going to get some complaints about this. No, I don't think that's a healthy thing for the metagame. I do not, in fact, think that it is good. We've talked a lot about Rogue already, so you should really get what she's for by this point. Primarily, she's to Rogue opposing Luke Cages, but she can also Rogue opposing Mobiuses, and in some cases, she'll Rogue, a Devil Dinosaur, a Dark Hawk, an Iron Man. Things like that she's very good at doing. I've stolen Blue Marvels, I've turned off Patriots. Rogue is an extremely powerful card right now, and I definitely would not remove her from this list. I think if you play a list that is so reliant on not getting Luke Caged, you need a real counter to it, and Rogue is that real counter. I don't know exactly what this says, but Evo Klops competes with Man-Thing kind of a lot, and I kind of wonder if that's like an area that has to be ironed out. So Evo Cyclops wants to come down on 4 and give your opponent some negatives so you can play a cheap Abomination on 5. And you know who else wants to do that is Man-Thing. It's a little bit awkward because you're almost never going to actually get your Abomination to 0 and play it alongside a Hulk or a Chavez. That's just not really a thing that's going to happen. And so because of that, they conflict a pretty decent amount. That said, I mean, Evo Cyclops, it's still just very, very good. Very often, like, effectively a 6/10, right? Because you're soaking on 4 or 5, something like that. But the ability to put power into closed-off locations effectively is what makes this card so powerful. And, of course, the fact that it guarantees with 2 procs, a 3-cost Abomination is quite powerful as well. I don't even know what this section is supposed to be. It's where I tell you why we're playing the cards in the deck, and this is a high Evo deck, and that's high evolutionary. So I guess what it's here for is check out my sick high Evo split. Man-Thing is genuinely quite a powerful card when he's not getting Luke Caged, and when he's not getting Luke Caged is kind of the scenario that your deck is built to set up. The guy has been a 4/11 for me a pretty decent amount of the time, and not just a normal 4/11, like a 4/11 that discounts my Abomination. It's extremely powerful. This is honestly a very, very powerful dude, and the fact that there are so many things that have to be sort of passed as checkpoints, like do they have a Luke Cage? Can you rogue it? I think that's a solid balance on his power, because honestly, if Luke Cage didn't exist, I think this might be one of the very best cards in the game. I do think, though, the existence of Luke Cage, just how strong Luke Cage is and how required most decks are to already run Luke Cage, does make this card a lot worse than he looks when you just look at him and you say, oh my god, that's a 4/11. Not really, but he is quite a powerful card in combination with making sure you get a cheap Abomination, which lets you, soak on a Sunspot, get a Misty Knight proc, get a Cyclops proc, all that kind of stuff, right? You get to use that cheap Abomination energy very well, and that is really what this guy does. He's a big guy that helps you get out another cheap big guy, and that's really all the deck is trying to do, is just play big, cheap, green beaters. Abomination is the second of your big, cheap, green beaters. This guy's like mostly a 3/9, and I don't think you have to be like a math genius to know that that's a pretty good rate for a card. Even just getting him to 4/9 is enough, because you end up getting, like, the proc off a Misty Knight, the proc off a Sunspot, the proc off a Cyclops. You really just need him to be a turn 5 card that you don't actually play on turn 5, where you don't actually play for 5 energy. You play him on turn 5 and you get all your other stuff too, which makes him something like a 4-12 or whatever. He's just good rate and he gets the job done. America Chavez is being run in this list because the hands without 1-drops are very, very bad. She makes the hands without 1-drops a lot less common. The hands without 1-drops and 2-drops are even worse. She makes those hands a lot less common as well. Games where you start out with a Cyclops on turn 3 are not fun, and you do not want to be in that situation. America Chavez smooths out your early game so you can sort of move into that powerful late game a little bit better. High Evo Hulk is enormously large, but I do think his presence sort of represents one of the main issues I had with this deck, which is it's really not good at going wide on the final turn of the game. And you are often sort of pigeonholed into playing an Evo Hulk, and that's not actually that good. I thought about replacing him with Doctor Doom just so I was able to like spread power a little bit more. At least the way I play, I think a Doctor Doom might benefit my play style a little bit more. I thought about even like taking him out for like a Captain Marvel, like just something that lets me hedge, you know, and play multiple cards on the final turn of the game and maybe soak a little bit. Like, so much of the rest of the deck is focused on letting us soak energy. And Hulk does not let you do that. It is one of the genuine downsides of not being a wave deck, is with the wave deck, this thing would cost 4 and you would get Omega Soaks. And you're not a wave deck anymore. And so this guy actually just costs 6, and it is a little bit more of a tough sell. Like that's not actually a joke. It is a genuine kind of a tough sell. And I do think that that should be taken into account when you look at modifying this deck in the future. Like, you might notice the same things that I did in terms of the Hulk needs a lot of very specific setup and very specific play in order to be good. And, you know, you're not a Storm deck, you're not an Alleviate deck, you're not a Professor X deck. You don't have a lot of those things that make it so just like one big guy is often game winning. And it does leave you vulnerable to decks that actually can cover multiple lanes on the final turn of the game. So overall take on Man-Thing is he's better than I expected him to be. I expected him to be the kind of strong that is sort of invalidated in the metagame by Luke Cage. I think he's actually the kind of strong that's just like pretty good. Like, this is actually like a pretty solid card. I definitely did climb while playing it. I believe I climbed about 50 SP in very high infinite ranks. I think I ended at like 53. And so that is definitely nothing to sneeze at, because like I said, when I played this deck, I was like, all right, it's time to lose some cubes. We're gonna lose some cubes playing Man-Thing. Such are the wages of a streamer. That's what you gotta do, right? You gotta investigate the new card, give it its due diligence, and Man-Thing was just good enough that I was able to be like, all right, let's try it, instead of Ravonna, where it's like, all right, this is completely terrible. So I would say I feel like the 3,000 tokens I spent on Man-Thing was actually pretty reasonable. I would not necessarily recommend opening spotlight caches for him because of the mediocre quality of the other cards in the box, and because it is so much more efficient to use tokens on the ones that cost 3,000. In addition, I believe he'll be rerunning in, I want to say, 9 weeks, according to the data mines, like in December sometime. I think he might be rerunning. Don't quote me on this, but I'm pretty sure. So do keep that in mind when you're talking about, you know, whether or not you want to purchase him as well. As far as the deck, I had a legitimate blast playing it. It was just a quality climbing session, and I have always had a soft spot for high Evo decks. I did the preview on the Marvel Snap channel for High Evolutionary. He's kind of been my boy for a while. Like, I like high Evo decks a lot. I especially like Abomination style high Evo decks. I kind of always try to make them work. So there definitely might be a little bit of play style bias in this for me. But my win rate was good, and my cube rate was better against some of the best players in the world. I really don't know what else to tell you other than that. I hope you enjoy the gameplay that's about to come up, and thank you so much for watching. As always, I've been Cam Best. I will see you later. He's streaming? Is he? Well, don't promote him. Rocks. I hate rock. Rocks. Rocks. Those are some big guys. Those are some large men. YOLO. Dice Wanderer with the Prime sub. Thank you so much. Welcome back. Welcome to the besties. Is Man Thing worth opening spotlights? I think not. I think Man Thing is mostly not worth opening spotlights, but is worth the 3,000 gold you spend on him. That would be my take. Mostly not a spotlight guy. And we win the tiebreaker. Let's go. Let's go. Very likely to be, at least in my opinion. I think I know who you're playing against. I started running into him yesterday. Yo, he's got the cleanup endorsement. Let's go. What's this, fucking Shuri? What's happening here? I've been donating cubes, but he's been dropping ranks fast. It's crazy how fast the good pool, how high the good pool 1 players come in. It really is. The good pool 1 players come in high as hell. Okay, so this is Shuri. Give me that mildly discounted abomination, please. What's the best way to clickbait better than expected? Like, how do I do clickbait with a card being slightly better than I expected it to be? What is my clickbait methodology there? He's not actually trash. Oh, that's good. He's not actually trash. That's really good. Yeah, I like it. Yeah. He's not actually trash, chat. Yo, that's cooking. That's cooking. That's cooking for sure. Whoa, why are they snapping me? Yo, are you serious? I respect what you're cooking, but bro, that is not the cook you wanted here. That is not the cook. A lot of Marvel Snap is about the simple math. Thoughts on Man Thing so far? Legitimately better than I thought he would be. That's what I got for you. He's better than I thought he would be. He's a very good discounter. You must have thought he was going to be real bad because he's worse than I was hoping for. Maybe. Maybe I thought he just sucked. I'm never drawing this fucking thing, am I? I guess I could. I did think he was going to be pretty bad, yeah. I'm going to go for the permanent debuffs here or instead of the Man-Thing stuff. Oh. Okay, yeah, that works for me. Hit that kitty, please. Let's go. Let's go on that kitty hit. Damn, son. Yo, the Mjolnir. Are we fucking cooking? Are we fucking cooking? Are we cooking? Is this a cooking stream? Veridux just redeemed Mjolnir waiter curls. All right, there's a bunch of weird shit happening here, I'd imagine. All right, we get 2 hits here. Maybe 3. Okay, and we have priority. Weird. Weird game. Their moves are very non-impactful. That's not doing it. That's not beating the world's largest Hulk. That'd win like 2 50-50s. We should have won that. I wish I had another 1-drop in here, I think. Okay, we're playing off curve the entire game. Oh boy. Where's my Mob? Oh boy. Oh, there he is. Thank fucking God. Thank fucking God for this guy. Jesus Christ. Cannot stress enough how important that fucking guy is right there. Insanely important, dude. Good lord. Gotta play an actual game now. We both have to play an actual game now. Sunspot is 4 versus Abomination's 9. Well, it's technically 5. Sure, fuck it. Why not? Sure. Are we dead? Fucking maybe. I don't know. We are not. We are alive. We are alive. See, I know how bad my deck is at attacking 2 locations. I know that for a fact. I've been the guy who's been like, oh, I'm dead because I can't do 2 locations at the end of the game. Like, I am so familiar with how bad my deck clunks in the situation that they were in that I just get to be like, yeah, it's fine. Well, it's a good thing they lost that Shadow King, then, isn't it? It's a good thing they lost that Shadow King, huh? The most beautiful hair of Marvel Snap streamers. That's not true. That's cozy. Hello, Dr. Doom. It's definitely cozy. For show. All right, so my man thing never fucking dies. Oh, thank God. Are we both dooming? Oh, we are both dooming. Let's go, baby. We're both dooming. It's a fucking Spider-Man point game. Did they just have this in their deck? So what happened here is they lost the game because we played Abomination and they played Lady Deathstrike. Man-Thing Sticking won that? Sure did. We finally won a Danger Room. I'm dooming here. Shake my hand, bro. Shake my hand. Shake my hand, bro. Shake it. Shake my hand. Shake my hand. Shake my hand! Why won't you shake my hand, bro? Do you have poor sportsmanship? Why won't you shake my hand, bro? Did we both get Negasonic? That's actually just so awesome. Holy shit. We both got Negasonic? What the fuck? Yo! That's crazy. That's crazy, dog. Doom? I'm expecting a Doom here, which is why I did this play. Expecting a Doom here.